Hello there. Welcome into a Tuesday edition of the show. So glad to have you, whether you're listening on your radio, streaming the show online at extrasports1300.com, or you've downloaded the Extra Sports 1300 app to do your listening. And that app is sponsored by Diversus Health, mental health, and well-being for all, a veritable cornucopia of sports topics coming your way over the course of the program, which will be a full 3 hours. So plenty of time for you to get your say, but do it sooner rather than later. Fire away, 719-247-1313. You could call or text into the show. In the wake of the Broncos' loss to the LA Chargers, Sean Payton is standing by his quarterback.
A lot's been made, I think, of the two long balls, and I'll be honest with you, and that again, driving in this morning, that'd be like 50th on my to-do list item.
So Sean Payton, not worried about the overthrows that have consumed so much of the discourse over the last 48 hours. The missed throw to Marvin Mims earlier in the game, and then, of course, the overthrow of Cortland Sutton on a drive that the Broncos could have put away the football game. Could have won it if Bo Nix would have hit that throw. And those are facts. Right? Bo Nix hits that pass to Cortland Sutton. The Broncos might very well win that football game. And he didn't. And there's criticism that is warranted with that. You can criticize Bo Nix's inability here at start number 21 of his career that he's not hitting those passes. But is he the first place that you go? To Sean Payton's point, where is Bo Nix not hitting those throws on your list of things that went wrong on Sunday? Here's what Sean Payton has near the top of his list.
It was a hard day to play quarterback when your average third down is 3rd and 11. So if we're not more efficient on 1st and 2nd down, the best in our league are going to struggle with the numbers that we gave him on 3rd down.
We are still in the window where the Broncos need to help Bo Nix more than Bo Nix needs to help out the Broncos. Right? I know he's the quarterback. It's the most important position, all that kind of stuff. He is in year 2. He is going to make mistakes. And it is very clear what the mistakes are that keep popping up. And this was one of the concerns. You know, everyone thinks when it's Bo Nix in the deep ball that he can't throw the deep ball. That's not what it is. Nobody's doubting his – I don't think anybody in their right mind is doubting his arm strength. It's the accuracy down the field that was questioned when he was coming out of Oregon. And it's one of the things that he doesn't have fine-tuned yet. But Sean Payton talked about all offseason how they have to run the football in order to be successful, run the football to take pressure off of Bo Nix. Essentially what is happening is that the pressure that Sean Payton didn't want to be on Bo Nix has been on him through 3 weeks. The very thing that Sean Payton did not want to happen is happening. And I agree with him. People shouldn't be so fixated on the fact that Bo Nix didn't hit those 2 throws. I'm with him on that. But he's got to get the rest of his team right. You know, week 1, it was him that was the issue. It was Sean Payton in his play calling. which he admitted afterwards wasn't where it needed to be. And I think that there are times in the last two games where you can look at it and say, all right, maybe not ask Bo Nix to throw it as much or throw it in certain situations. Or perhaps, here's a thought. And I know the plays worked. Well, like they worked. They had Marvin Mims. They had Cortland Sutton, right? Maybe those aren't the plays that you want to dial up in a game of that consequence. Right? If that's something that Bo Nix struggles with, and you know that, if you're Sean Payton as well as you and I know that, are those the type of plays that you want to keep dialing up? He missed one to Marvin Mims. I guess he hit one to Cortland Sutton, and maybe that was the idea with Sean Payton was like, well, he hit one. But if he struggles with these kind of things, maybe figure out a different way. Sean Payton being the offensive guru that he is, maybe you figure out a different play call, a different kind of play that Bo Nix is more capable of hitting. But I think the most important thing here is understanding that 3 games into year 2, Bo Nix is not good enough to win the Denver Broncos games. He can be part of it. He could be part of the reason. He could be a reason. He can't bail this team out. And that's what they were asking him to do on Sunday because they kept being in second and third and longs. The team needs to have Bo Nix's back on Sundays. And right now they're not. It's not that they don't want to, but they're not executing to make it easier on Bo Nix. And I think through 3 weeks, you have seen and heard the signs of real frustration from Bo Nix as he tries to navigate, call it a sophomore slump, call it whatever you want, navigate these first 3 games. This was Bo Nix being asked about the inconsistency on offense.
Yeah, I'm not sure. I don't know. I would we'd score every drive if I knew.
He doesn't know. And I take him at his word. Bo Nix doesn't know. So it's incumbent upon the people around him to not make it his job to figure it out. Eventually, yes, Bo Nix will have to figure it out. That will be part of the growth process. There will come a time if the Denver Broncos are a real serious contender where Bo Nix is going to have to know exactly why they're inconsistent on offense and fix it. Right now, he doesn't know, and he's not capable of fixing it. Sean Payton should be. So I think the pressure here going into the Cincinnati game and beyond starts with Sean Payton. Sean Payton's got to figure out ways around this, ways to help his young quarterback. And then part and parcel with that is that the team around Bo Nix has to help him out. They have to start off drives better. They have to start off games better. And so far through 3 games, this has been just an extension of the 2024 Denver Broncos, and that will not be good enough to win the division. And that certainly won't be good enough to go deep in the postseason. Should Bo Nix be further along in his development? I don't think so. I really don't, because I have seen this recently quite a bit. It's just this second year thing. It's real. And Sean Payton doesn't want to call it a sophomore slump, but quarterbacks that are in the situation of Bo Nix, you would think year two with an entire season under their belt that they'd be ready to take a step forward. Show me the evidence of that. Show me the quarterback and by extension, the team that built on a very successful first year with a rookie quarterback playing every game. It's just not there. So I don't think 3 games into the season, and also, week 1 was bad. Right? Week 1 was bad with Bo Nix against the Tennessee Titans. There's no other way around that. And I know it was a pretty soft landing spot week 2 with the number of injuries the Colts had, but Bo Nix played pretty well in that game, right? Let's give a little bit of credit to Derwin James and the Chargers. That despite not having Khalil Mack, still were able to hold down the Broncos offense, to keep them behind the sticks, and to force, and that had to be the game plan, right? That had to be the game plan. If we can get this team into 2nd and 3rd and long, we force Bo Nix to beat us. And right now, there isn't a team in the National Football League that wouldn't take that. Underneath it, there's a level of respect. I think that Bo Nix did turn a lot of heads last year, but they don't respect him to the point that they're going to say, we don't want him to have the ball in his hands. We'd still do that rather than allowing the Denver Broncos to run J.K. Dobbins all over us. Teams are going to try and force Bo Nix to beat them, and Bo Nix is incapable of doing that at this stage in his career. So it's incumbent upon the team around him to force the issue. Right? Let's get a game here. And I know the Chargers game is not going to be that game, right? Because the Chargers are one of the best teams in the NFL right now. Maybe it's Cincinnati. Maybe it's Monday night, where let's see the Denver Broncos impose their will a little bit. Let's have the Denver Broncos go into a game and say, no, I know what you want to do. I know you want to force Bo Nix to beat you. We're not going to let you do that. The Broncos are letting teams force Bo Nix to beat them. And the longer this goes, the louder the noise is going to become, the more pressure that gets placed on the shoulders of Bo Nix. And I've talked about this through 3 weeks. Bo Nix has shown signs of cracking a little bit under that kind of pressure. The Broncos have got to help him. And then as this season goes on, it will shift a little bit more over to, okay, Bo Nix, the team's doing what they need to do, right? They're running the football. They're playing good defense. They're in this game. Now it's your turn. But Sunday, I saw a Broncos team that didn't help out Bo Nix and played right into the Chargers' hands of forcing Bo Nix to beat them. And you saw what happened. That Bo Nix, when the Broncos needed him to, could not deliver. Broncos at this point are not going to win a lot of games if that's the formula. And that's what Sean Payton has been talking about for the last 2 days. And he's 100% right. But it is partly on him to make that happen, right? He's got to figure some stuff out. And then the team has to execute that plan. 719-24-7, 1313. Coming up next, we'll stay with the NFL. And unfortunately, that whole delicious moment of revenge the Broncos were looking forward to, or you were looking forward to for the Denver Broncos, and it doesn't look like it's going to happen. Talk about it next. Trans-Siberian Orchestra is returning to Colorado Springs with its winter tour, The Ghosts of Christmas Eve. Count them, 2 spectacular shows on Sunday, November 16th at 2:30 and 7:30 p.m. at the Broadmoor World Arena. Tickets on sale now, AXS.com, or in person at the Pikes Peak Center box office. Sean Payton standing by Bo Nix. Are you? This from the 719. I think Bo Nix is at his ceiling. I think we're getting close. I think we're getting close. I don't know that Bo Nix is capable of a lot more than what he has already shown. But I'll say he's not there yet. And the reason why I say he's not there yet is if we're just looking at the Chargers game. Okay, Bo Nix overall, I thought, played a pretty good game. What we're talking about with Bo Nix is that he is the deep balls and the clutch, right? That's really what we're talking about with Bo Nix. The deep passes, that is a footwork issue. And I feel like he can improve that. The clutch gene, I don't know. That's the thing where I don't know that you can create that. Jaden Daniels has already shown he has that. Bo Nix hasn't. But if we're just talking about the passes that he's kicking himself about, that's a footwork issue. And I think that that's something that even though it was widely known about him coming out, he showed it last year. I understand that there's some impatience with Bo Nix not remedying a very clear issue that he has had since he came into the league. But I still believe it's a fixable thing. But to be able to have the game on your shoulders, have the game on the line, and you need to deliver, I don't know if Bo Nix is capable of that. But I know he's capable of, he should be capable, I guess is the way I'll put it. He should be capable of fixing the footwork issues in the pocket. And if he does that, then I will say he's pretty dang close to his ceiling. I don't think he's at his ceiling yet. I don't. I think we're more than a year, a season away from truly knowing if Bo Nix is at his ceiling. I'm giving him into, I would say late this year, we really got to start seeing it, and then we see it next year, and if we don't, then we're having a different conversation. I don't blame you for thinking that Bo Nix is at his ceiling, but I look at those throws, because that's what everybody's harping on, and say that's footwork. That's footwork. That could be improved. There's still time for Bo Nix to become a finished product. And then we can evaluate what that gets you. Can Bo Nix be the guy that we saw last night beat the Baltimore Ravens and Jared Goff? Can he be that guy? Can he be Brock Purdy? I think that's what the best case scenario is. I wouldn't say Goff just because I think Goff is Brock Purdy plus. And I don't think that Bo Nix is that. But I also don't think Bo Nix he's not a finished product. He's not where he's ultimately going to be. 3 games into year 2. And now we have apparently another young quarterback thrown into the mix here in the NFL. And it is going to be disappointing news to you if you're a Broncos fan, because you remember that whole thing. What is it, week 7? When Mr. Russ is supposed to be back in town? Yeah, that's probably not going to happen, because Jackson Dart has been named the starter for the New York Giants. I'm just double checking that. Yeah, week 7. The week Dre Greenlaw is supposed to be back, yes? And you know what this... I just saw this episode the other night, but let's be honest. I watch so many reruns of The Office. I probably see every Office episode multiple times within a month span. What this reminds me of, with this news coming down that Russell Wilson is going to be replaced by Jackson Dart, it reminds me of when Andy Bernard shows up at the office in the janitorial costume, and he's trying to do this whole bit where he's like down on his luck, and like his life has taken a terrible turn since he got fired. And then David Wallace is going to show up and announce that Andy's the manager again, and he's going to take it off, and he's got a tuxedo underneath, and he's the manager again, all this stuff. The line where he says, "I just want one delicious bleeping moment." I think that's the reaction of Broncos country today. You have waited and waited to get Russell Wilson back in Denver. Heck, to even go up against Russell Wilson at a neutral site or on the road, you just want to see this Broncos defense go against Russell Wilson once before he has called it a career. That was taken away from you last year because of the injury, and now the Giants are pulling the ripcord and going to Jackson Dart this week. And so it appears that it will be Jackson Dart week 7 visiting Empower Field. So no, Broncos country, you are not going to get your delicious moment. Perhaps you can take some solace in the fact that Russell Wilson, 3 games into his Giants career, is getting benched. And this piece of news really surprised me. It really surprised me today, because I thought we had just talked about this yesterday. If you tuned into the show, we were just talking yesterday about Jackson Dart and when he might come in for the Giants. I'm like, it's going to be a while, because Brian Daboll is going to wait till he can be sure that he can get Jackson Dart pointed in the right direction to save his job. This feels like an incredibly panicked decision. We're going into week 4. They're not even taking... When's the Saints game? Isn't the Saints game next week? Not this coming week, but the week after? Like, they're not even waiting for that. Brian Daboll is apparently watching Sunday's game between the Broncos and the Chargers and says, yeah, I'd like to throw my rookie quarterback in against that defense. I mean, I guess they don't have Khalil Mack. But I thought the entire premise here was to get Jackson Dart as soft a landing spot as possible. And I acknowledge that the Giants' schedule does not have a lot of those. The Giants' schedule is brutal. But the way I looked at it, it's, the mini bye, right after the Giants play a Thursday night game, or the bye week, or at least a lesser opponent in the New Orleans Saints. No. a team that has come out of the gate and looking like the best team in football right now with the Chargers. That's where you want to put Jackson Dart? This is why we continue to talk about it's not on these quarterbacks that they get labeled busts. How is Jackson Dart more ready today than he was 3 weeks ago? Tell me the exponential growth that Jackson Dart has made for Brian Daboll to go, yep, we're good. We're good now. He's totally fine. He wasn't able to start this season. Couldn't do that. But now, week 4, he's definitely ready. There's no way that that's the case. There's no way that Jackson Dart is more ready to take the reins of the New York Giants than he was at the beginning of the season. So one of two things has to be the case. Option A, Brian Daboll watched Russell Wilson in abject horror and said, I can't do this anymore. Or option B, Brian Daboll's boss watched Russell Wilson for 3 weeks in abject terror and went to Brian Daboll and said, you need to make a change. Because so let's take option 1. And you could tell me which one you think this is. Is this Brian Daboll saying, I can't watch another minute of Russell Wilson? Or is this the Giants ownership saying, I can't watch another minute of Russell Wilson? Because if it's the first one, then the criticism for Brian Daboll it becomes, why didn't you know? And it's just this, I don't get it. I don't get what Russell Wilson has on the NFL, what leverage he has. This is now organization number 4 in the last, how many years has it been? When did he get traded to the Broncos? This is franchise number 4 that's saying, we don't want Russell Wilson anymore. It's like 4 teams in 4 years, isn't it? The Seahawks tried to tell the Broncos, they didn't listen. The Broncos tried to tell the Steelers, they didn't listen. The Steelers tried to tell the Giants, and they didn't listen. And Brian Daboll made the decision to start Russell Wilson having Jameis Winston on the roster. It's not like it was Russell Wilson or Jackson Dart. You could have gone with Jameis. And you looked at Russell Wilson, despite everything that the Steelers, the Broncos, and the Seahawks have been saying, despite what has happened to Russell Wilson, and you looked at him and said, I can fix him? Like a team in the Seattle Seahawks had him forever. And they're moving on when they did. That's not a red flag. Sean Payton, very good quarterback coach, right? He's able to make Taysom Hill look like a halfway competent NFL quarterback. And he said, hell no, I can't deal with this guy. You don't take his word for it. And then he goes to another team, and maybe you're not putting the stock in, Mike Tomlin's evaluation of quarterbacks, but did you watch Russell Wilson play? All this has happened. You have Jameis Winston. You have another veteran on the roster, and I'm not saying Jameis Winston is perfect. Far from it. And yeah, you're probably not doing a whole lot better with Jameis Winston. I looked at these 3 games. I'm like, Jameis Winston wins one of these. I don't know which one. Probably the Dallas game. He wins one of them. But despite having Jameis Winston on the roster, despite what Seattle, Denver, and Pittsburgh have said through their actions, when it comes to Russell Wilson, you decided I can get by with this guy. And 3 weeks go by and you're like, I'm out. Brian Daboll did help Josh Allen get to where he is. So I'm going to put that in, and I've been thinking about this a lot today, and I'll give producer Ray credit, not just because he's sitting in here with me, but I'll give him credit because I thought it was Brian Daboll looking at Russell Wilson and saying, I'm out. And Ray convinced me that it's not that it's Brian Daboll either fearing for his job or being told his job is now being considered, which is because when I first heard that, I'm like, well, it's the Giants. They're the NFC version of the Steelers. They're the model of stability. They stuck with Kaufman forever, and they stuck with Eli despite him being a mediocre quarterback during the regular season. I know the Super Bowl championships with those two guys helped out a little bit. But they're a stable organization. They don't make great decisions all the time, but they opt for stability. So the idea that they were going to fire Brian Daboll within a month and a half of the season beginning, that's a very un-Giants-like move. But I just don't know how Brian Daboll could make the decision to go with Russell Wilson, given all the evidence that was out there, only to bail on him 3 weeks into the season. Like, I thought he made the decision to start Russell Wilson, and he was going to carry this to week 7, 8, 9, 10, 12. That's what I thought. So either Brian Daboll is panicking on his own accord, or there are some strong signs from on high that if he doesn't do something to shake this up, and we all know what that move is, there's nothing else the Giants can even do except go to Jackson Dart. Either it's been expressed to him explicitly, or he just feels like if he doesn't make a move now, he might get fired. Whichever reality you want to choose, whichever choose your own adventure you want to do, this is a panic move. And Jackson Dart's not going to be a lot better. He's not going to be. And I'm as critical of Russell Wilson as anybody out there. I am telling you, Jackson Dart is not saving the New York Giants. And you are putting him into a bad position, starting right away with one of the best teams in the NFL, in the biggest media market, and the most impatient group of sports fans that have ever roamed the earth. That's the situation you're going to put Jackson Dart in. Good luck. And this has nothing to do with Jackson Dart. Nothing to do with him, because we have found out that it has far less to do with the quarterback themselves than the organization, the coaching staff around him. I am not saying Jackson Dart is not going to be successful because of Jackson Dart. I am saying because organizations make bonehead, panicky decisions like this. And you're throwing Jackson Dart in to go toe-to-toe with Justin Herbert against one of the NFL's best defenses. 719-247-1313. How disappointed are you that Russ isn't coming back to Denver? More Drive Time Sports after this. Welcome in hour 2 on this Tuesday. Great to have you. Appreciate you watching the show on our social media platforms, Facebook, Twitter, YouTube, and Instagram at XTRA Sports 1300. While you are there, subscribe, follow, and drop a comment. We've had a lively discussion so far today, well, even dating back to yesterday, regarding the Broncos' loss against the Chargers, and we're going to continue it here. But before that, how about starting the hour with a chance to win $1,000, huh? Not a bad way to go. Your latest national keyword for the 5K a day is SMILE. SMILE. If you text that to 95819, you'll be entered to win $1,000 with our 5K a day. We're doing it all day, 5 days a week. Be listening for the national keyword and text it to 95819. The new national keyword for you is SMILE, SMILE, something that Broncos fans are not doing a lot of after Sunday's game. To wit, this coming in from the 719. Yes, offense needs help and be way better, but Denver would be 3-0 if the defense didn't commit stupid penalties late in the last 2 weeks and not let a running back be wide open out of the flat. Let's play. The one thing I'll say about the defense, and something that you have to, I think, keep in mind, the defense is constantly being put into bad situations. They are on the field too much. They are defending a short field too much. And I think you really saw late in that game a defense that was a little bit worn out. And the Broncos have to do, and it's, if the Broncos offense is better, I think some of what you're talking about on the defensive side of things will improve. I think the defense is just, they're being hung out to dry. Not week 2, right? And that's probably part of what you're alluding to. Is what happened against Indianapolis. I am with you on the criticism of the Broncos defense week 2. But in totality, when you look at these 3 games overall, the defense is being put in a more difficult position than they should be by this supposed improved Broncos offense. But let's take the other part of your text there. What if this team was 3-0? Let's play this game. Let's do this thought exercise here. Let's say no leverage, right? Which is a special teams blunder, not a defensive blunder. No leverage. And heck, let's just take away all sorts of mistakes. Adam Troutman's offensive offside, or his offensive face mask, or J.K. Dobbins delay a game. Take your pick. You have to choose the leverage one, obviously, from the Indy game. But take any number of the mistakes, the penalties that the Broncos had against the Chargers, and let's say they ended up 3-0. What would the conversation be? And I'll tell you what the conversation would be on this show, because I can control that. I can't control how other people talk about it. We would be talking about a team that is extremely fortunate to be 3-0. and we'd be talking about a team that at 3-0 is a bit fraudulent. We would. Because you can't just take away everything, every bad thing that the Broncos have done over the last 2 weeks. Because if you did that, then yeah, they look like a juggernaut. But if we're just taking out one or two, we're going in with the scalpel and we're like removing the leverage penalty on the Colts field goal. What are we talking about in that game? Why didn't the Colts why weren't they in more of a hurry to get their field goal kicker in a better position? Why are they taking so long to get downfield? Because that's what I was thinking before the leverage penalty. I'm like, the Broncos aren't winning this game. The Colts are losing it. They're not getting downfield. They're not even getting to the target line. The Colts put their kicker in a terrible position. And yes, the Broncos bailed them out. But you can't change everything. If you just change the leverage call, I think more of the conversation would be on the fact that the Indianapolis Colts, despite moving the ball up and down the field seemingly at will all game long, decided to, walk the ball up the field on the most important drive and make it so their kicker had to kick it from 60 yards away. I think that loss or that game would be more of a Colts loss than a Broncos win. And let's say that the Broncos somehow pull that game off on Sunday. They were getting dominated up until Bo Nix hit Cortland Sutton on that touchdown. The Broncos were unequivocally the better team on Sunday for about 2 minutes. And we talk about the middle eight, right, being so important. And Sean Payton prides himself on that. The great coaches do. Andy Reid does. Bill Belichick did. You win that middle eight, it'll go a long way to winning the football game. Sean Payton and the Broncos executed in that middle eight, but it wasn't even really the middle eight. It was the middle two. You look at that game overall, and I think you still can acknowledge that the Chargers were the better team. We'd be talking about the Broncos stealing one. And look, 3-0 feels better than 1-2. And the conversation would also be Broncos are quite fortunate to be 3-0 right now. They have a lot to work on, and they better get it figured out quickly because they're not going to be able to only be the better team for about 2 minutes of a football game and expect to consistently win. There would still be this conversation of the Broncos needing to be better. That if the Broncos are truly going to be what they're trying to be, there has to be more growth. I don't think that the conversation, the sentiment behind the conversation we're having would be a whole lot different. Look at everything that happened. If we just take away the leverage penalty, Daniel Jones still lights it up. Jonathan Taylor still runs all over them. Getting to your point. You take 3-0, and you certainly say everything that the Broncos want to accomplish is in front of them. But we'd still be having a conversation about the Denver Broncos needing to be much better if they are going to become a contender. They will have stolen the Chargers game. They will have not deserved to win the Colts game. But they beat 3-0. Right? And again, 3-0 is better than 1-2. Be a different conversation. There would be a little bit better feeling around the Denver Broncos. But I think the main conversation would still be, man, this team has a ways to go. Because you can't eliminate everything. Right? But if you're just taking out one thing each week that perhaps, well, let's say Bo Nix hitting Cortland Sutton and the leverage penalty. I think you'd still be looking at these 3 games overall and say the Broncos have a ways to go, but there would be some excitement behind it, right? It'd be like, man, the Broncos are 3-0, and I don't even think they've played particularly well for 3 weeks. So it's a different conversation, but at the heart of it, you'd still be looking at the Denver Broncos and going, okay, they gotta be better. They gotta up their game. But here's the reality of the situation. Can't do that. Can't do that. These mistakes that the Broncos are making, that's who they are. A team that can't win close games, a team that can't beat good teams, that's who they were for the entirety of 2024. So until proven differently, this is who they are as a football team. They are a team that will make mistakes at key times. They are a team that if they can't get bailed out by their defense, probably not going to go well. That's the first thing that the Broncos have got to fix. Right? The first order of business, because we've already talked about, Bo Nix isn't there yet, but the supporting cast isn't there yet, and the defense is leaving something to be desired, and we're going in all of these different directions, and I'm not saying that all of it isn't true, but it's like and if you're sitting in Sean Payton's position, you got to kind of bring this in and go, okay, what's the thing I got to fix this week? What's the thing that we got to stop right here and now? Is it the fact that Bo Nix gets happy feet in the pocket and can't consistently hit deep passes? No. Is it, the Broncos' soft underbelly in the middle of the field when it comes to their linebackers? Well, they tried to fix it with Dre Greenlaw. As much as that was a risky move, that was what they were trying to do. I don't know that it can be fixed. Here's the other thing from Sean Payton. Control the controllables. You can't control who Justin Stronada and Alex Singleton are as players. That's who they are. You recognize that. That's why you brought in Dre Greenlaw. So, looking forward to the Bengal game, here's the first thing that the Broncos need to fix before all of this other stuff. Before we talk about, is the talent around Bo Nix good enough? Is Bo Nix good enough? Can Dre Greenlaw help them? Can Evan Ingram help them? The first thing they got to do is they have got to stop with the mistakes, the losing on the margins. And they have been incredibly creative so far this season, and they're really exhausting about every different type of rule in the rule book. They're doing a little bit of everything. It's like they have a bingo card, and it's like, did anybody do offensive offside yet? Did anybody line up in the neutral zone? Adam Troutman, can you help us out there? Yeah, we can mark that off. Those things have got to be eliminated now. Then, and only then, can you move to the next thing on the to-do list, which is, Bo Nix, you got to set your feet. Do the Broncos even have one game in and game out reliable receiver for him to throw to? And Riley Moss has been propped up a little bit by Pat Surtain. He's starting to get a little bit exposed. Can we live with that if we're the Denver Broncos? And can we get Dre Greenlaw healthy to help us out in the middle of the field? None of this other, all valid points, all things that the Broncos need to figure out. But first things first, leverage, offensive face mask, not being covered on the offensive line like Garrett Bowles was the other day. Delay a game because of a spike in the middle of the field. Like all of these things that are so avoidable by just being buttoned up. Let's get a more buttoned up Broncos team Monday night against Cincinnati. And if we get that, then we can start to truly evaluate everything else. And I think that's what Sean Payton has been saying. That's what he said after the game. That's what he said in his conference call yesterday. He's not worried about Bo Nix hitting those deep passes. Because why are they having to call them in the first place? Because they're in 3rd and 11. Because someone held or had an offensive pass interference or grabbed a face mask. That stuff has got to be out immediately. 719-24-7. 1313. Coming up next, Deion Sanders weighing in about football teams and football players that aren't his own. Is that a good idea? Your national keyword for the 5K a day is smile. Text SMILE, SMILE to 95819. You could win $1,000, something that we're doing all day, 5 days a week. It's the 5K a day. Do that. Okay, so I don't think that Deion Sanders should be discussing the way NFL teams are handling Shedeur and Travis. Deion Sanders went on the Kelsey Bros pod and had comments about Shedeur and Travis. Now, the Shedeur comments, I don't think were as big of a deal. Just if you read his comments or if you listen to it, I don't listen to that. I prefer Travis Kelce not letting perfect Mahomes passes bounce off of his arms to be picked off by the Philadelphia Eagles. That's how I like Travis Kelce. I don't need to hear him on the podcast. But I know I'm in the minority. Their podcast is huge. Good for them. So Deion Sanders goes on to the Kelsey Bros pod, and he says that he has an idea when he thinks Shedeur is going to start for the Browns and believes that Shedeur is going to start in 2025 for the Browns at some point this season. By the way, I agree with him. It's one of the things I have been saying. Shedeur Sanders will start a football game this season for the Cleveland Browns. And I don't think it's that big of a deal because it could just be construed as, well, he's just being hopeful, right? He believes in his son and he thinks he'll be seeing him. He's not calling for Shedeur to start tomorrow. He's not chastising the Browns organization. He's just saying, I believe my son's going to start this year. Okay, fine. The comments with Travis Hunter are worse because he went and did a whole dissertation on how the Jacksonville Jaguars are not handling Travis Hunter the right way. Right? And Deion Sanders is like, he needs more snaps. I think he's at like 68% of the snaps. He's like, he's got to play more. He's got to play more. I rest him. He didn't practice, Monday and Tuesday. He practiced Wednesday, Thursday, Friday, played all but like one or two snaps or all of the snaps. This is how you do it. And he's saying Jacksonville's not doing it the right way. Now, I think that Deion Sanders has a pretty good idea on how to handle Travis Hunter. So it's really not about what he's saying. It's just the fact that he's saying it. Because that right there is kind of part of the reason why his son slipped in the draft. The fact that Deion Sanders is going to be omnipresent, that Deion Sanders is not only going to have an opinion, which I'm sure many parents do, parents that weren't Hall of Fame players probably have opinions on when Jackson Dart's parents probably have an opinion on when Jackson Dart should start. Right? They don't have the platform that Deion Sanders does. So even though he may be right about the way that Jacksonville is handling Travis Hunter, which I don't agree with either, I don't know that I fully agree with Deion Sanders either. My thing has always been start Travis Hunter at corner and bring him along slowly. Give him almost every snap on the defensive side of the football because you need him there. And that's what to me, I always thought what he would be better at would be playing corner. He'd be more valuable playing corner because the Jags defense is horrendous. So I said, give him all the defensive snaps and then bring him along slowly, with the goal being, yeah, we're going to give this thing a try where Travis Hunter is on the field all the time. And I think it's kind of what the Jacksonville Jaguars are trying to do. I just think they're going too slow with it. Like, what are you saving Travis Hunter for? It's like he's not really doing either. If you've noticed, he's not really doing either. He's not really contributing on either side because he's not on the field. The Jaguars are trying to do this balancing act. We're going to give him some on defense, some on offense. Maybe it's a little bit more here, a little less here. And it's like, just pick what side of the football you want him on and then bring the other one along slower. And I thought that's what Jacksonville was going to do, just the reverse. I thought it was going to be, he's going to be out there a lot as a wide receiver and they bring him along slowly as a corner. It's like they're slow playing his development at both positions, and I don't know that they're accomplishing what they want to accomplish. So I have my problems with the way Jacksonville's been handling Travis Hunter also. But I'm not Deion Sanders. I have a microphone. I have a platform. It's not Deion Sanders' platform. And also, if I say what I just said, I'm a sports talk show host. Kind of my job. It's accepted. The former college coach and or father speaking out is different. And it's part of the reason, the fear of that, the fear of exactly what Deion Sanders went on the Kelsey Bros pod and did, is part of the reason why some teams got scared off from drafting Shedeur. Because they evaluated him and said he's not as good as Deion or many people think that he is. And now we have to evaluate the headache that comes along with it, the distraction. There's a reason why the Browns are making Dillon Gabriel the backup, and why the other day Dillon Gabriel came into the game and not Shedeur. Because once you bring in Shedeur, you are opening Pandora's box and you cannot close it. So nobody is going to be okay with Shedeur Sanders in mop-up duty and then going right back to the bench the next week. Because if he shows anything, the Sanders Mafia, the Shedeur fanboys are going to be going nuts. And Deion Sanders is going to be saying, gotta leave him in. But this isn't a good thing for Deion Sanders. Forget his close attachment. And I don't know, it does feel very paternal, his relationship with Travis Hunter. And that's great. Right? And Deion Sanders, I do think, again, I think he knows. I think he has some insight into the best way to handle Travis Hunter. And I think it's kind of silly that the Jacksonville Jaguars did not consult him or talk to him on what the best way to go about was. Or maybe they did casually and they're not heeding his words. I think they should take Deion's advice. But that advice should be on the other line of a telephone or at the team facility, and not through Deion Sanders on with Jason and Travis Kelce. I mean, what other time have you heard? I remember John Calipari went on with all the NBA players that he has helped develop and send to the league. He used to be on the Dan Patrick Show all the time. He's on the Jim Rome Show a lot. He's on national media a lot. John Calipari loves to be interviewed. I don't know that I have heard John Calipari once, and I'm not saying that he definitely hasn't, but I can't recall a time, and One of his players is currently playing for the Denver Nuggets. He's had multiple players that have played for the Denver Nuggets. He's been asked about Jamal Murray. I don't recall John Calipari saying that the Denver Nuggets aren't doing right by him. Now, maybe someone can dig something up. I'm just saying I don't, off the top of my head, recall this. And even if he did, I would call it the same thing I'm calling it with Deion Sanders. This is poor form. You should not be doing this. You can build up your player. You could talk about how your player has the brightest of futures and they're going to be a Hall of Famer and they're going to be great. But don't get into how the team is handling him. That's not good. And it just kind of feeds the beast of, well, what happens? So Deion Sanders right now is okay with how the Browns are handling Shedeur Sanders. Doesn't seem to have any complaints. What happens week 12 when whatever the magic number is, whatever Deion Sanders has in his head, maybe he's thinking week 12. What happens if week 12 comes by and the Browns don't start Shedeur and someone invites Deion Sanders onto their podcast? What is he going to say then? So this is exactly what I believe some teams were worried about. And it's just somewhat ironic that it's not Shedeur that he has so much to say and has criticism for the team. It's Travis. Deion Sanders probably knows better than anybody how to utilize Travis Hunter, and the Jacksonville Jaguars would be smart to consult him. But until they do that, Deion Sanders should not say these things. And by the way, not for nothing, I'm not taking one Wyoming game and saying that the Colorado Buffaloes are fixed. I get it. These coaches are asked questions. But Deion Sanders thought his energy, his evaluation would be better spent. All of that time would be better spent focusing on his football team, his current players, not his former ones. 719-24-7, 1313 back after this. Let's hit the text line here. We'll hit the three stories that are driving the show at the top of the hour. Still doubling down is the texter from the 719 about Bo Nix being at his ceiling. Says Nix is there. He'll be 26 in 5 months. I don't know that age matters. Look at And I know that this is threading the needle, and I know it's anecdotal. I get your premise, and I understand why you would go there, and I don't think you're completely off base. But let's remember the poster child for this, which is Baker Mayfield. Now, did he have to go elsewhere to ultimately realize his potential? Yes. But the idea that Bo Nix, because he's 26, has already peaked as an NFL quarterback. I don't believe that, because it's about the time you're getting at the NFL level. It's about learning at the NFL level. And in Bo Nix, even at his age, I agree with you that because of all the games he's already played and because of his age, he's closer to his ceiling coming in as a rookie than other rookies might be. But I still say that there's more room for him to grow, and just because he's 26 years old does not mean he can't. This other sentiment that you bring up is interesting, because I was thinking about this. Says, I'm pretty sure Drew Brees made Sean Payton. I was thinking about this very thing, right? Because we went through this with Brady and Belichick. And it has been made abundantly clear ever since that divorce that one is more responsible for the success of the other. And that is Brady being more responsible for the success of Bill Belichick. Not saying Bill Belichick had nothing to do with the success of Tom Brady or nothing to do with the success of Patriots. This is just about giving the most credit, and Tom Brady deserves the most credit. And until Bill Belichick shows signs of being able to do much of anything other than coordinated defense, because he did do that at a very high level, but as a head coach, until he does something with North Carolina or gets back in the NFL, which I don't think is going to happen, but until he shows something, then you'll be like, well, yeah, maybe Tom Brady kind of made Bill Belichick the head coach. So I thought about that with Sean Payton. But don't forget, smaller sample size, I grant you. Don't forget what he did with Teddy Bridgewater. Don't forget what he did with Taysom Hill. Okay, are those as rousing successes as Drew Brees was? No. Right? Surely not. If Sean Payton can't get Bo Nix to play at that level, or get Bo Nix to a level that now the Denver Broncos can compete for championships, I think we absolutely will look back and say, who is more responsible for whom? Outside of Drew Brees, yes, there was the success with Taysom Hill. There was the success with Teddy Bridgewater in small doses. But ultimately, he took on the most difficult job there is in the NFL, and that is drafting a quarterback and developing them. And drafting a quarterback in the first round and developing them, because you have the added weight of expectation. This isn't just, hey, Kyle Shanahan deserves credit for what he's been able to do with Brock Purdy, but Brock Purdy did not come in and everyone went, hey, Kyle Shanahan, you got to develop this guy. You know who that was for Kyle? It's Trey Lance. The pressure was on, and what happened? The 49ers bailed the minute that they had an option outside of Trey Lance. If Sean Payton, I'm not quite there to say that Drew Brees absolutely made Sean Payton, and without Drew Brees, we wouldn't be Sean Payton isn't anything. I see it on a weekly basis. He's a good coach. I believe he's a good coach. I think he's one of the better ones in the league. But if he can't get this Broncos team to where he is saying, by the way, that cannot be lost. These are Sean Payton's words that I am using against him. If he cannot get the Broncos to compete for a Super Bowl, and obviously what Bo Nix is as a quarterback would be a large determining factor of whether the Broncos are competing for Super Bowls or not. We will look at Sean Payton and say, without Drew Brees, what did you get? Still a good career, but we're talking about Sean Payton like first ballot, no doubt, Hall of Famer. Will that be the case if he doesn't develop Bo Nix and get him to where he needs to go? And this from Brett. Says, I agree with you that the Broncos would be a lucky 3-0 team. The fact I agree with you has prompted me to text my mental health provider. I'm trying to think of a team that last year that got lucky. Oh, I know where this is going. A team last year that got lucky and should not have won several games except for the grace of the referees. Altogether now, he's talking about the Kansas City Chiefs. Notice that nobody's saying that now about the Chiefs. Oh, they get all the calls. Do they? And it says the Kansas City Chiefs are still in trouble. The receivers are in driving school, reeling in the weight of Taylor Swift's fetishes. Come on now. What are we doing? What are we doing? I had to scold my son. This is a true story. Now, not in a. I didn't yell at the kid. He's like, Travis Kelce is like this because of Taylor Swift. I'm like, you stop. You stop. And I'm not a Swiftie. But, like, we shouldn't be blaming the women in the lives of these NFL players for why they struggle. Come on. And if anything, having the world's biggest pop star as your fiance should make Travis Kelce elevate his game. I mean, we could talk about healthy Justin Herbert all we want. Are we sure this isn't a little bit because of the significant other he apparently has now in his life? You don't think you'd be... We talk about this all the time with NBA players. You know, we had last year OG Anunoby balled out, and everyone's like, why did this happen? And U.S. gymnast Suni Lee was sitting there at courtside. And that became a whole story. Come on now. Let's not pretend that we don't understand the male psyche. If you had Taylor Swift or Madison Beer or Suni Lee or go on down the list supporting you, sitting courtside. I know Suni Lee was just friends with OG Anunoby, but I'm saying it's a powerful motivating factor. We know this. Travis Kelce is not washed because of Taylor Swift. If anything, Taylor Swift should be elevating what Travis Kelce is as a player. And I had to have that conversation with my son. But to your point, Brett, I am of the mind that when Xavier Worthy and when Rashee Rice come back, this is going to be a different looking Chiefs offense. But that doesn't mean that if they don't get them back, they're not in trouble. And one thing I'll say, and it's going back to the Eagles game, the aura of invincibility, it's gone. It's gone. You may feel like I do that the Chiefs will be fine, that the Chiefs are still... Here's what I think the arc of the Chiefs are. Okay? So the aura of invincibility is down. Nobody's afraid of this team. They respect Mahomes, and that defense is one of the best in the league. Let's not forget that the Chiefs' defense is elite. They respect Andy Reid. They respect Mahomes. They respect the defense, but they're not scared of them anymore. Right? The Eagles did that. But I think the evolution here is that Chiefs are beatable. Chiefs are not themselves anymore. They get back Rashee Rice and Xavier Worthy. It looks better. Do you put them above the Buffalo Bills or a couple of other teams? Probably not. But then at the end of the season, they become the proverbial, no one wants to play this team. Let somebody else put an end to the Chiefs dynasty. You don't want to play them. And then we'll see where it goes from there. But they have to get those guys back. Like, that's the thing that I want to emphasize here. I think they'll be better when they get those guys back, but they must get those guys back in order for it to be okay again with the Kansas City Chiefs. They cannot continue with Tyquan Thornton being their number one wide receiver. We just talked about this with Bo Nix. Right? You can't have no one around you. Even the almighty Patrick Mahomes needs a little bit of help. And he seems to have none offensively right now. If they don't get back Xavier Worthy, let's say he dings up his shoulder again, or is just not the same guy. I know his best strength is his speed, and his shoulder shouldn't affect that, but let's say he's a diminished version of himself. Let's say he gets banged up again, and who knows with Rashee Rice. But if those guys don't come back and are who they were before they left, yeah, this Chiefs offense isn't getting better. But I do think it will get better when those two guys show up. Let's pause. Couple of texts I will get to. Baltimore Ravens related, Bridgewater, Taysom Hill related. I will effort the answers for you, and we will get to those next hour. In the more immediate future, we'll hit the three stories that are driving the show here on Extra Sports 1300. Hello there. Welcome in hour 3 on this Tuesday edition of the show. So glad to have you, whether you're listening to the show on air, online, or through the app, or whether you're watching and hopefully listening to fully get the immersive experience on our social media platforms, Facebook, Twitter, Instagram, and YouTube at XTRA Sports 1300. I'm everywhere that I can be. I don't know if that's a good thing or a bad thing. I guess it just depends on your view of me and this show, but I've been told by the higher-ups that I need to be in all of these places to reach you. And I want to talk to you, but I don't want to just talk at you. I want to talk with you. 719-247-1313. Great conversation so far. A couple of texts that I'll get into here in a little bit that I would really like to discuss. And perhaps you have a thought on one of these stories that are driving the show. All right, let's go to Sean Payton, who's not worried about Bo Nix.
A lot's been made, I think, of the two long balls, and I'll be honest with you, and that again, driving in this morning, that'd be like 50th on my to-do list item.
And yes, of course, what would Sean Payton say? He's not going to be, I don't know, like the Indianapolis Colts and say, I'm out on this guy, forget it. Remember Anthony Richardson? No, you don't, because Daniel Jones exists right now, and they clearly made the right call. But yes, you could look at it and say, what else would Sean Payton have to say? But really think about it here. Why is he having to dial up these plays, these long pass plays? Because the Broncos need many, many yards to convert a first down. And if we're just looking at the Charger game and we're splitting up the blame pie here, the biggest slice needs to go to players not named Bo Nix. Right now, I don't feel like the Denver Broncos as a collective are helping out their young quarterback, because their young quarterback is not at the stage in his career where he can bail them out, where he can put them on his shoulders, where he can put on his cape and be Superman. I don't know if he's ever going to get there, but I know 21 starts in, he's not going to be. Sunday's game was far more. I get those overthrows stick with you. They eat at you. They gnaw at you. I understand that. Take the game in its totality. Bo Nix was not the reason why. Bo Nix had a better passer rating than Justin Herbert did. But yes, what came down to it? Justin Herbert, with that amazing throw to Keenan Allen to tie the game that Jim Harbaugh couldn't stop raving about this morning on the Dan Patrick Show. Yeah, Bo Nix isn't that. Bo Nix may never be that. But if we're really going to go down to two throws from the entirety of a football game, and the entirety of a football game where the Broncos continue to commit dumb penalties, where the flaws in their defense were exposed by the Chargers passing game, if we're going to harp on those two things, Bo Nix is going to be run out of town by Christmas. I get it. I've lived amongst you for my entire life. I understand what it's been like at the quarterback position. I understand how many false alarms there have been, how many times where you thought you had your guy. I understand how impatient you get. I actually admire that, because you know what? Fans should not be sunshine and rainbows about their team all the time. Real fans can criticize. while still loving their team and wanting them to succeed. I'm not even saying don't criticize Bo Nix. I'm just saying, are we really going to harp on those two throws as the ultimate reason why the Denver Broncos lost to the Chargers? How about the week before? Was that on Bo Nix? Week 1, I'm with you. Week 1, that was very much on Bo Nix. But on Sunday, he didn't turn the football over. He didn't take those game-altering sacks. I think he took one that really hurt the Denver Broncos. But there were far more holding penalties, offensive offsides, pass interference, all this other stuff that went on. Right now, I think the focus for this Denver Broncos team should be first and foremost, they got to play a clean football game. They got to stop being behind the sticks on every single stinking drive. And then we can get into the nitpicking Bo Nix. Then we can hold him to a certain standard, because right now he's being asked to convert 2nd and 20s, 3rd and 11s. Not going to win that way. And you should take it from me, because I have not been on the Bo Nix bandwagon. I am accused of being a Bo Nix hater, and here I am taking up for him. The Broncos have bigger problems than Bo Nix not being able to hit 2 deep passes in that football game, even as consequential as that second miss was. They got bigger issues. They're not a well-run team right now. They're not an efficient operation. They're not winning on the margins. They're losing on the margins. I don't know if Bo Nix is 50th on Sean Payton's list. That's a little bit of hyperbole. He's not number 1. And the Broncos need to go after problem number 1 before they can get to wherever Bo Nix is on that list. Story number 2, also a quarterback story. The New York Giants apparently finally coming around to what fans of the Steelers, the Broncos, and the Seahawks have been screaming at the top of their lungs for years. It started with just the Seahawks fans, and everyone's like, "Oh, they're the 12th man. They're just loud. We're not going to pay attention to what they say." And then Sean Payton looked at Russell Wilson. He's like, "No." And Broncos fans are telling Steelers fans like, "Hey, don't take this guy." And the Steelers went, "Forget you. We're taking him." And then they found out. And then they told the Giants, "Don't do it. Don't do it." Giants did it anyway. And now, after 3 games, Brian Daboll is breaking glass in case of emergency. And he's starting Jackson Dart. After 3 games, there is no world where Jackson Dart is more prepared to be a starting quarterback in the NFL for week 4 than he was week 1. I refuse to believe it. If he is, if he is ready now, then they should have just started him to begin the year. Right? You can't tell me. We're talking about Bo Nix, start number 21, still has happy feet in the pocket. There is no way Jackson Dart has improved enough from week 1 till now for Brian Daboll to be like, yeah, he's ready to go. This is absolutely Russell Wilson. And the only question becomes, is this Brian Daboll saying, "I can't stand to spend another Sunday on the sidelines watching this guy play quarterback"? Or is it somebody who signs Brian Daboll's paychecks that is saying, "I can't watch another down of Russell Wilson football"? I think it's the latter. Because I think Brian Daboll was in on Russell Wilson for much longer than 3 weeks. And I know Russell Wilson has been absolute garbage. All he has left is that moonball, and it's not even that effective anymore. It has been bad. But to me, you don't go to Jackson Dart for week 4 because he is ready. Because this is a soft landing spot. He's playing the same team that you just watched the Broncos lose to on Sunday. You think Jackson Dart is ready for that? Oh, well, it's a home game. Okay. I would actually say that it would be better for Jackson Dart to start on the road than start New Jersey. Did you see what and hear what Giants fans did to Russell Wilson on Sunday? This is the New York experience. The second mistake, not the first. New York fans a little bit more patient than that. The second mistake Jackson Dart makes in Sunday's game against the Chargers, that you will hear boos. This has to be Brian Daboll getting pressure from above, saying either perceived or actual verbal pressure being placed on him. You better go to the kid or you're not going to make it through this season. Because there's no way Jackson Dart is ready for this. And this is why organizations fail young quarterbacks more than young quarterbacks fail organizations. This is not going to go well for Jackson Dart. I hope it does. I have nothing against Jackson Dart. In fact, the idea of a team with Cam Scattaboo and Jackson Dart is quite fun. I hope it works out. But this feels like an absolute panic move, and the guy that's going to pay the price is going to be Jackson Dart more than anybody else. And now to story number 3. Let's actually talk about good football, because I feel like we've been talking about like not so good football. Here's some good football from last night. '97 won the ticket in Detroit. That was just the start of a phenomenal performance last night by the Detroit Lions as they beat the Baltimore Ravens on Monday Night Football. And I think that game last night was far more about Detroit than about Baltimore. Now, I'm not saying there isn't a Baltimore storyline, because Zach Orr is going to be the guy that is going to pay for any playoff failure from the Baltimore Ravens. His defense does not look good. Gibbs and Montgomery ran all over them. Goff picked them apart. But I take that game in totality and I said, look at what the Lions were able to do against Lamar Jackson. This is a Lions team that I thought lost too much intellectual capital, too much intellectual power, losing so many coaches, including their 2 coordinators. And I thought that this Detroit Lions team would take a step back. And I felt emboldened in my claim after week 1. Well, we're now 2 weeks removed from it. Yes, Chicago is Chicago, but a win like last night, that is on a big stage against one of the best teams in the NFL. Maybe Detroit will be okay after all. And I didn't think Detroit would be terrible, but I thought they wouldn't be what they had been. Last night, they looked every bit the team that went 15-2 last year. And doing it up against, say what you will about the Ravens defense, they're a little bit of a mess right now, but doing what they did defensively to Lamar Jackson, looks like the Lions are going to be okay. Does that make them the favorite in the NFC? I'd still say no. But they'll be in the they look like they're going to be in the conversation. That's a high profile win. It's a good win. Ravens defense. What is your problem? 719-247-1313. Take your thoughts on the three stories that are driving the show, and we'll get to your text messages right after this. This week's nominees for our Extra Sports Athlete of the Week, sponsored by Blackjack Pizza and Salads, are available to be voted on. Up for your vote at extrasports1300.com. They are Bailey Williams of the Air Academy softball team, Trevin Rick of the Sand Creek football team, Brenna Moorman of the Doherty volleyball team, and Oliver Horton, who runs cross country for Coronado. You can vote at extrasports1300.com. We'll reveal the winner on Friday. And just updating you, it's Brennan Moorman out to a lead, but Bailey Williams not that far behind. Trevin Rick and Oliver Horton, if you want to vote for them, get your vote in soon, because it's the Brenna and Bailey who are starting to turn this into a race between the two of them. Extrasports1300.com, and thanks to our fine friends at Blackjack Pizza and Salads for their support of our Athlete of the Week. Let's get to a couple of texts. This coming in from the 719. Hi, Ryan. Have the Denver Broncos cut Adam Troutman yet? I regret to inform you they have not, because they don't have a healthy tight end in Evan Ingram right now. I mean, isn't that kind of add to the misery right now if you're a Broncos fan, or the angst? I won't say misery. Come on, three games. The angst that you're without Evan Ingram, so Adam Troutman plays more. Although Adam Troutman was playing quite a bit, probably more than Broncos fans would like earlier in the year when Evan Ingram was playing. But it kind of exacerbates the fact that they were without Evan Ingram on Sunday, with Adam Troutman making more mistakes. But that's what the Broncos need to remedy first. Whether it's by cutting somebody or putting different personnel on the field, or how about this? The personnel that Sean Payton has rubber stamped each and every one of these guys that are here, right? There were guys that you thought could help the Denver Broncos. Justin Simmons is the one I keep going back to. Sean Payton's like, no. And Adam Troutman is the poster child for it. Be honest. Did you know who Adam Troutman was before he signed with the Denver Broncos? Gotta say, did not have an extensive knowledge of one Adam Troutman. But that was Sean Payton's guy. It's Sean Payton's guy who's committing these mistakes. He's not the only one, to be fair. But it's one of the guys that you look at and like, it's not even George Payton's kind of guy, right? Like maybe George Payton does like Bo Nix as much as Sean Payton does. Maybe George Payton likes J.K. Dobbins as much as Sean. Adam Troutman is Sean Payton's guy. And he's lining up offside. Are tight ends not allowed to do the thing where they point over to the side judge? Is that not allowed? Can they not get that help that wide receivers get? You line up offside. Offensive face mask. Like, I think, I don't want to pick on him because, again, he's not the only one. Okay? He didn't commit the leverage penalty. Right? Just as one example. But if you want a player to kind of encapsulate the angst surrounding the Denver Broncos right now, how about the guy that Sean Payton made a point to bring in because it was his guy, and his guy is failing to do what Sean Payton asks of him as much, if not more, than anybody else on the roster. You brought him in to instill Sean Payton football to Denver. And he's making mistakes like this the past 2 weeks. This coming in from the 719. Baltimore is the team getting the calls now in place of the Chiefs. Here's a hot take. Any team with a star quarterback, put aside if you like them or not, any team with a star quarterback, you can certainly have some evidence to think that they get all the calls. And only when they go up against each other can there only be one like the Highlander, right? When Josh Allen goes up against Patrick Mahomes, it doesn't seem like Josh Allen gets a lot of calls to go his way, right? Josh Allen in every other game that's not against Mahomes and maybe not against Lamar Jackson, he gets calls. Lamar Jackson gets calls. Joe Burrow gets calls. It's just that there are no amount of calls in the world that can help Joe Burrow behind that offensive line. But I'll tell you what, and you know, it was probably a light-hearted text, a little bit of a jab. It doesn't need to be taken as seriously as I'm about to take it, but let's dive into it here with the Chiefs. The reason why the Chiefs, it doesn't seem like they're getting the calls, is because they're not doing enough good to put themselves in a position to get a call. Like, part of the reason why the Chiefs were perceived to get the calls is because they were putting themselves in a position, they were putting the defense into a position where they might have to do something that's right to the line in terms of being a penalty, and some star treatment perhaps kicks in. There you go. Chiefs aren't doing enough good right now offensively to get calls. Their guys aren't in any position to do much of anything, let alone getting calls. And also, they don't have the personnel that makes it difficult on opposing defenses to the point where they might commit a penalty. Nobody's lining up across from Tyquan Thornton and go, okay, I really got to be, I'm a little nervous here for Tyquan Thornton. There is an art and somewhat of a skill when it comes to getting calls. And I'm not talking about flopping. I know that's where you think it's not flopping. I'm saying that you do things to put pressure on the opposing team where maybe they would commit a penalty. Chiefs offense isn't doing that right now. I took part in a little side research project. So forgive me for the limited amount of time I've had to look into this. But I've tried to distill this information. Asked from Texter in 719. I'm curious to know the opponents Bridgewater and Taysom Hill faced when Sean Payton coached them. Wasn't one of them against the Broncos when the Broncos didn't have a QB. Here's what I have been able to find. I think, didn't the Saints play the Broncos with Kendall Hinton? I don't know. But here are the some of the teams that Teddy Bridgewater went up against in 2019 when he was able to go 5-0. The Jaguars, who finished the season 6-10. He played some NFC South teams. The NFC South, the Saints went 13-3 that year. The Falcons went 7-9. Teddy Bridgewater beat them. The Buccaneers went 7-9. Teddy Bridgewater beat them. And the Carolina Panthers were another team that Teddy Bridgewater beat during that stretch. And the other team was the Arizona Cardinals, who finished 5-10-1 that year. As far as Taysom Hill goes, Taysom Hill, the real Taysom mania, I think there were kind of two separate stretches. I think the one was 2021, a little bit 2020, but into 2021. In 2020, I'm looking at some of the teams that Taysom Hill was able to beat. And it was, I think that was Denver. That was Denver. One of the Taysom Hill games was against Denver. So you're right about that. That was a Taysom Hill game. But the real height of Taysom mania, I'm looking at it, was that. So it was Atlanta before that. Atlanta in 2020 was a 4-12 football team. The Broncos, they beat. Who is the other team here? The Philadelphia Eagles, they lost to. And then in 2021, he went for 264 against the Cowboys, lost. Beat the Jets. I don't even need to look. I'm sure the Jets in 2021 were not good. The Carolina Panthers was another one that they beat. I told you, I thought about this the other day. I was like, Teddy Bridgewater and Taysom Hill. I appreciate what you're doing. You know why? You pushed me. Not in a bad way. You pushed me and you said, hey, Ryan, check this out. You nudged me in this direction. And now I'm looking at it. I'm going, I think maybe we need to look. Because the whole premise here is everyone implicitly trusts Sean Payton to get Bo Nix to where he needs to go, which will then by extension get the Broncos to where they need to go, which is a Super Bowl. Okay, and Drew Brees is obviously the gold standard. That's who Bo Nix gets compared to all the time, although I had a former teammate of Drew Brees on that I asked him about that comparison. He's like, I don't see it yet. But Drew Brees is what's held up. And Sean Payton helped Drew Brees, right? So there was a symbiotic relationship. I think we can say that. It's just like Mahomes and Andy Reid. There's a symbiotic relationship. Patrick Mahomes doesn't become this Patrick Mahomes without Andy Reid. Drew Brees doesn't become that Drew Brees without Sean Payton. That I'm certain of. But the idea that Sean Payton can just pluck quarterbacks out of nowhere and develop them and make them good, that's where you lean on, well, look at what he did with Taysom Hill. Look at what he did with Teddy Bridgewater. Upon further review, still an accomplishment, but maybe we're not looking as closely to those stretches of time as we need to be. And I promise you, people will start to look closer if Bo Nix doesn't achieve what people believe he's supposed to achieve. And by the way, here's something with those Saints teams. Taysom Hill and Teddy Bridgewater, I could say this unequivocally, had better supporting casts at the skill positions than Bo Nix currently has. To get back to Tom's earlier text. We're 3 games in to year 2 of this with Bo Nix. And we got a lot of time to talk about Bo Nix, the quarterback himself, and then start to look at the guys around him. And I think both, after this 3-game stretch, you are right to question. It's just a matter of what's more the reason why the Broncos are looking like they are looking through 3 weeks. And for that, I'm with Sean Payton. Let's put Bo Nix a little bit down on the list. Let's get some other things figured out. And then maybe we can evaluate Bo Nix a little bit better and rightly put some pressure on him. He's got a lot on his shoulders that I don't think that he's equipped for 21 games into his NFL career. 719-247-1313. Coming up next, a surprising firing in college football, which gives me an excuse to play one of the 5 best press conferences in the history of press conferences. Don't forget, the latest 5K a day keyword is SMILE, SMILE. Text that to 95819. You'll get a little bounce back letting you know you are entered. We'll see if you win $1,000. We're doing this 5 days a week, all day long. It's the 5K a day. So keep that number handy, 95819, and make sure you text SMILE to it right now. Surprising news out of the Big 12 as Oklahoma State has fired Mike Gundy, and another long-tenured college coach is gone unceremoniously, very unceremoniously. He just did his weekly press conference yesterday. That seems a little cruel and unusual. And then they fired him today. But it's another coach that has fallen victim to the new world of college athletics. The statement from the athletic director, who, by the way, today received an extension on his contract, so you could, fill in the blanks here. Maybe either it's him or it's you type vibe to all of this. But he says college football has changed drastically in the last few years, and the investment needed to compete at the highest level has never been more important. The people that give Oklahoma State money did not want Mike Gundy as their head coach anymore. This is part of it. We've seen so many long-tenured coaches, Saban and Boeheim and now Gundy, where you think they're going to coach forever, and then they don't. And the reason is not necessarily because, we've had a good run here and I'm done. It's because they don't want, either they don't want to coach in the new world of college athletics, or they can't. Right? And part of that latter aspect is that in part to survive and succeed in the new world of college athletics, you got to play nice with the people who run the collective and the people that donate to the collective. I don't know that Mike Gundy was, let's take Dabo Swinney, for instance. Okay? It's not that he doesn't embrace the new world order here, unlike Dabo. Oklahoma State was 5th in the Big 12 in the latest transfer portal. Texas Tech was number 1, obviously. Colorado was 2, then Houston, West Virginia, Oklahoma State. That doesn't seem like they weren't embracing college athletics as it currently stands. But the people who have the purse strings are more powerful than ever before. And if they want someone gone, it will take a lot to keep that coach employed. And it really seems like in Stillwater, it was, if you're not going to fire Mike Gundy, we're going to find a new athletic director, because all of these people who pour money into our program are not happy. And they are now stakeholders in a more significant and concrete way than just, hey, I pay money every Saturday to go to Oklahoma State football games. I don't think that this is great. And there's some good, there's some bad. When it comes to the way college athletics is going, this is a bad. Who the head coach is of a basketball or football team really should not be ultimately determined by the people who donate money to the collective. Now, it's not to say that something like this hasn't existed in college athletics, right? There were boosters before, there were donors. Like, it's not like those people have never been placated, but now we're seeing it more and more. They're louder, they're more public. It's like more okay now. Like before it was, well, this big time donor, they're not really happy, so we got to kind of do something. And it was all, hush hush behind the scenes. Now it's just like out front in public. Everyone sees it and everybody knows about it. Now, I'm not going to stick up for Mike Gundy and his track record, right? We aired a game on Extra Sports 1300 where I think they gave up 70 points. So maybe Mike Gundy was going to get fired one way or another. But reading the statement from Oklahoma State's athletic director, doing some digging on this, the reason why now is because those people have more power. And an athletic director on an expiring contract is not strong enough to stand up against them. I don't love it. But you look at this particular case, and you can apply it, throughout college athletics. Like, this is happening in more places than just Stillwater. But you have the kind of the intersection of this new dynamic in college athletics, plus a guy who hasn't been able to put it together in a while. And that's why he's the one to go. Clemson's going to be fascinating. But there, it's a different case. I don't think anybody associated with Clemson wants Dabo gone. Like, they may say they want him gone, but the reason they want him gone is because he won't embrace. Like, Mike Gundy at least was hitting the transfer portal. They got 29 guys out of the transfer portal? Dabo just doesn't want to do it. No, everyone acknowledges Dabo had a pretty epic, rant the other day. And then he turned around and lost to Syracuse. So not a great way to back up your words there, Dabo, but he made a point. And he made a good one. Like, everyone understands what level of coach Dabo is. The angst, I think, with the Clemson program, the anger inside the Clemson program is just, you're such a phenomenal coach. If you just embrace this transfer portal a little bit, we would be back to where we were with Trevor Lawrence and Deshaun Watson. Just embrace it a little bit, just a few, not 3. I think they brought in 3 transfers, like more than that. I don't think anybody's asking Clemson to be the number 1 transfer portal class. It'd be nice, but they understand that's not how Dabo rolls. But this staunch, no, I'm not doing it because I'm God's gift to coaching. It's like, that has run its course, dude. You're not anymore because you're not willing to play by these rules, which are agreed upon by everybody. How good of a coach you are, which you are a brilliant coach. He's a great coach, great motivator, great leader. But he just can't hang when everybody else is bringing in all of these ready-made, good-to-go transfer portal players, and he wants to do it the old way. So I think that's what it is. I don't think Clemson actually wants Dabo to leave because they know he's going to get another gig somewhere. And they know that they're not going to get, they had Tommy Bowden forever. Like, Dabo has been great for Clemson. Everything he said the other week was true. But the anger is if you can't embrace this, if you can't adapt, what other choice do we have? Because you can't win the way you do things. But if you just embrace the transfer portal a little bit, plus how good of a coach you are, then Clemson can get back on top. So it'll be fascinating to see if Dabo's the next guy. But you look at all of these long tenured coaches that are either fired or they retire, and it you could just chalk it up to it's more about where college athletics is right now than it is the product on the field or on the court. With Gundy, there's a little bit of both. But as if there's any time that's not a great time to bring this up, in honor of Mike Gundy's tenure at Oklahoma State coming to an end, may I present to you, since I was born in 1985, this is now my mantra.
If anybody
Oh, so good. Hopefully he gets another gig and we have the chance to get another epic Mike Gundy rap. I'm off 40, and that automatically makes me a man. Appreciate you tuning in. Appreciate the interaction. I'll be on with Jessica Mendoza tonight at 10 o'clock on KKTV 11, and then you and I will reconvene tomorrow here on Extra Sports 1300.